Horror Story 1: The Man Who Kept Calling from the Woods. My name is Mason Reed, and this happened in northern Maine during the winter of 2023. I was 28 years old and worked as a wildlife photographer. Most of my time was spent alone in forests, mountains, and places where people rarely went. That winter, I rented a small cabin deep in the woods to photograph snow-covered landscapes. The nearest town was almost 30 miles away, and there was no cell signal around the cabin. I loved the isolation. For the first few days, everything was perfect. The forest looked beautiful, and the silence helped me focus on my work. But on the fifth night, something happened that changed my life forever. Around midnight, I woke up because of a strange sound outside. It wasn't loud. It sounded like someone slowly walking through the snow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. At first I thought it was a deer. Then I heard it again, circling the cabin. I looked through the window but couldn't see anything except darkness. The motion sensor light outside suddenly turned on. For a second, I saw footprints in the snow. Human footprints. They led from the forest to my cabin. The strange part was, there were no footprints leading back into the woods. It looked as if someone had walked out of the darkness and simply vanished beside my house. I told myself there had to be a logical explanation. The next morning, I went outside to investigate. The footprints were still there, large boot prints. They stopped right beneath my bedroom window, nothing beyond that point. No return trail, no sign of where the person had gone. I felt uneasy, but convinced myself it was probably an old hunter playing a prank. That night, I locked every door and window before going to sleep. Around 2:13 a.m., my satellite phone rang. Almost nobody knew that number. Confused, I answered. There was only static at first. Then a man's voice whispered, "Don't look outside." My stomach tightened. "Who is this?" I asked. The line went silent. Then the man whispered again, "He's standing behind you." The call disconnected. I immediately turned around. Nobody was there. My heart was pounding. A few seconds later, I heard knocking on the cabin door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I grabbed a flashlight and looked through the peephole. Nobody. The porch was empty. Then I noticed something in the snow. Fresh footprints leading to the door. Again, there were no footprints leading away. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I drove into town and told a local diner owner about what had happened. The old man listening to my story suddenly became pale. He asked where my cabin was located. When I told him, he stared at me for several seconds before speaking. He said decades earlier, a man named Daniel Crow had disappeared in those woods during a blizzard. Search teams spent weeks looking for him, but never found a body. According to local legends, Daniel sometimes called people from the forest to warn them about something living there. Most people dismissed it as a ghost story. I laughed nervously and returned to the cabin. That evening, I reviewed photographs from my camera. Most were normal landscape shots. Then I noticed something horrifying. In one photo taken earlier that day, a man was standing between the trees in the distance. He wore an old winter coat and stared directly at the camera. I hadn't seen him when taking the picture. I zoomed in. The man's face looked distorted, almost blurred, yet his eyes were perfectly clear. They seemed to be looking right at me. A cold feeling spread through my body. Around midnight, the satellite phone rang again. The same static filled the line. Then the whisper returned. "Leave now." I asked who he was. "Daniel," the voice replied. Before I could respond, I heard screaming in the background. Terrified screaming. Then the call ended. At that exact moment, every light inside the cabin went out. Complete darkness surrounded me. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward the window. A tall figure stood outside. It was at least 8 feet tall. Its body was unnaturally thin, and its arms hung almost to the ground. Snow covered its skin. It had no visible eyes, no visible mouth, just a smooth, white face. The figure slowly tilted its head toward me. I froze. Then it began walking around the cabin. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The same footsteps I had heard nights earlier. I locked myself in the bathroom and stayed there until sunrise. When morning came, the creature was gone, but dozens of footprints surrounded the cabin. I packed my belongings and prepared to leave. As I loaded my truck, I found something sitting on the driver's seat. An old photograph. The picture showed a search party standing in the snow sometime in the 1970s. Among the men was Daniel Crow. Written on the back of the photograph were 4 words. "It follows the living." I ignored the warning and drove away. Looking back, that was my biggest mistake. During the first week after returning home, nothing unusual happened. I started believing the entire experience was caused by stress and isolation. Then, the phone calls began again. Every night, at exactly 2:13 a.m., my phone would ring. The caller ID always displayed unknown. Whenever I answered, I heard static followed by Daniel's voice. Sometimes he whispered. Sometimes he sounded terrified. But the message was always the same. "It's getting closer." I changed my number. The calls continued. I bought a new phone. The calls continued. I moved to a different apartment in another city. The calls continued. Weeks passed, and my mental state deteriorated. One night, I decided to stay awake and record the call. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the phone rang. I pressed record and answered. Instead of Daniel's voice, I heard heavy breathing, then a deep growl. The sound didn't seem human. Suddenly, another voice interrupted. It was Daniel screaming, "Don't let it see you!" The line went dead. The next morning, I listened to the recording. The growling was there. Daniel's warning was there. But something else appeared in the audio. Faintly, in the background, I could hear footsteps crunching through snow, even though it was the middle of summer. That night, I locked every door and covered every window. At 2:13 a.m., the call came again. This time, while speaking to Daniel, I heard a loud bang from my living room, then another, then another. Someone was knocking on the front door. I looked through the peephole. Nothing, but muddy footprints covered the hallway outside my apartment. Large footprints leading to my door. No footprints leading away. My blood ran cold. The knocking stopped. Then I heard scratching on the wall beside me, slow scratching, like claws dragging across wood. Suddenly, the lights went out. I stood frozen in darkness. A few seconds later, my phone illuminated with an incoming call. Daniel's name appeared on the screen, even though he had been dead for decades. I answered. He sounded exhausted, defeated. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I couldn't stop it. Before I could ask what he meant, a loud crash erupted from my bedroom. I ran toward the sound. The window had shattered inward. Snow covered the floor despite it being August. And standing at the far end of the room was the same creature I had seen outside the cabin. The tall white figure slowly turned its head toward me. For the first time I saw a mouth appear across its face, a long black smile stretching from one side of its head to the other. I ran from the apartment and never returned. Police searched the building but found nothing. No footprints, no broken glass, no evidence of an intruder. Nobody believed me. Over the next year I moved 3 different times, yet the calls never stopped. Every night at 2:13 a.m., every single night. Last month the calls suddenly ended. At first I felt relieved. Then I realized something worse. Daniel had stopped warning me. 2 nights ago, I woke up because of footsteps outside my house. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I looked through the window and saw fresh footprints crossing my yard. They stopped directly beneath my bedroom window. There were no tracks leading away. And when I checked the security camera footage the next morning, I discovered something that terrified me more than anything else. At 2:13 a.m., a tall white figure had stood outside my house for nearly 6 hours, staring into my bedroom. It never moved, it never blinked, and just before sunrise, it slowly smiled at the camera. Since then, every night, it appears a little closer to the house. Tonight is the first night I've seen it standing on my porch, and my phone just started ringing again. The caller ID says only one word: Daniel. Horror story. 2. The voicemail from tomorrow. My name is Jason Miller, and this happened in Colorado during the fall of 2024. At the time, I was 26 years old and working night shifts as a security guard at an office complex on the edge of town. The job was boring, but it paid well. Most nights, I spent hours watching security cameras and walking empty hallways. Nothing unusual ever happened. At least, not until the night I received a voicemail from myself. It started on a rainy Thursday. Around 11:40 p.m., my phone vibrated. I looked down and saw a missed call from my own number. I frowned and checked again. It was definitely my number. Thinking it was some kind of glitch, I ignored it. A few seconds later, a voicemail notification appeared. Curious, I played it. What I heard made my blood run cold. The voice was mine, exactly mine. Same tone, same accent, same breathing. The recording began with heavy panting. Then my own voice whispered, "Jason, listen carefully. You don't have much time. Whatever happens tonight, don't go into conference room B." The message ended abruptly. I stared at my phone in disbelief. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe someone used AI to copy my voice. Maybe it was a prank, but nobody I knew would go through that much effort. I laughed nervously and went back to work. Around midnight, I was making my usual rounds when I noticed something strange. Conference room B was open. That room was always locked after business hours. I immediately remembered the voicemail. A chill ran down my spine. For a moment I considered checking the room, but the warning echoed in my head. Don't go into conference room B. I decided to ignore it and continue my patrol. 30 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. Another voicemail, again from my own number. This time, the voice sounded terrified. "You didn't listen. It's already seen you." My stomach dropped. Then I heard a loud bang somewhere inside the building. The sound echoed through the empty hallways. I grabbed my flashlight and followed the noise. Every corridor seemed darker than usual. Every shadow looked wrong somehow. When I reached the second floor, I found a chair overturned in the hallway. Nobody else was supposed to be in the building. Suddenly, one of the motion sensors activated at the far end of the corridor. I pointed my flashlight toward it. Nothing, just darkness. Then the sensor activated again, closer this time. My heartbeat accelerated. I radioed for assistance, but all I got back was static. Then my phone rang. Not a voicemail this time, an actual call. The caller ID displayed my own name. My hands trembled as I answered. "Hello?" For several seconds there was silence. Then I heard myself speaking. "Jason, run." The call disconnected. At that exact moment, every light in the hallway shut off. Complete darkness swallowed everything. I turned on my flashlight and spun around. At the end of the corridor stood a tall figure. It looked human, but something was horribly wrong. Its limbs were too long. Its neck was twisted at an unnatural angle. And its face was my face. It smiled at me. I ran. I sprinted through the hallways without looking back. Behind me, I heard footsteps, fast footsteps, much faster than any human could run. I reached the security office and locked the door. The cameras were still operating. Breathing heavily, I checked the monitors. Every camera feed displayed the same thing. Me, standing motionless in different areas of the building. Hundreds of versions of me staring directly into the cameras. I couldn't understand what I was seeing. Then every version simultaneously smiled. The screens went black. My phone vibrated once more. Another voicemail. "Don't let it touch you." My voice whispered. "If it touches you, it becomes you." I spent the rest of the night trapped inside the security office. Every few minutes, something scratched against the door. Sometimes I heard footsteps outside. Sometimes I heard my own voice calling my name. When sunrise finally arrived, everything stopped. The scratching ended. The footsteps vanished. The building seemed normal again. I quit my job that same day and tried to forget the entire experience. For several weeks, nothing happened. Then one night, I received another voicemail. This time, the timestamp made no sense. According to my phone, the message had been sent 6 months in the future. I assumed it was a software error until I played the recording. My voice sounded exhausted and desperate. "Jason, if you're hearing this, I've already failed. It's not staying in the building anymore." I nearly dropped the phone. The message continued. It can look like anyone now. Friends, family, anyone. I spent hours trying to explain it logically, but nothing made sense. Over the following months, the voicemails kept arriving. Each one came from farther into the future, and each one sounded worse than the last. Future me always sounded terrified, injured, desperate. In the one message, he whispered that the creature was spreading. In another, he claimed it had replaced dozens of people. Then came the voicemail that truly broke me. It arrived at exactly 3:03 a.m. Future me was crying. "Mom isn't Mom anymore," he said. "Don't open the door tomorrow morning." The next day, my mother unexpectedly showed up at my apartment. The timing was impossible. She lived hundreds of miles away. She smiled and said she wanted to surprise me. But as we talked, something felt wrong. Tiny details. The way she blinked, the way she spoke, the way she smiled without moving her eyes. Every instinct in my body screamed that something wasn't right. Eventually, she left. That night, another voicemail arrived. "You let it find you." I didn't sleep at all. A week later, I started noticing people staring at me. Strangers in grocery stores, people in parking lots, neighbors across the street. They would simply stand still and watch me. Whenever I looked directly at them, they smiled, the exact same smile. Then, one evening, I saw something that destroyed any remaining doubt. While walking home, I looked into the reflection of a store window. Someone was following me. It was me. Same face, same clothes, same height. When I turned around, nobody was there. But the reflection remained, standing behind me and smiling. I ran home and locked every door. The next voicemail arrived minutes later. "It's almost ready." I wanted answers, so I tracked the messages to their source. The location data led to an abandoned warehouse outside town. Against my better judgment, I drove there. Inside, I found hundreds of old phones scattered across the floor. Every phone belonged to me. Every one contained years of voicemails sent by future versions of myself. Some recordings were dated 10 years ahead, others 20. I listened to one of the oldest messages. Future me sounded ancient, weak, defeated. "There's no future left," he whispered. "It wins every time." Then the recording ended with screaming. Suddenly, dozens of phones around me began ringing simultaneously. The sound echoed through the warehouse. One by one, every screen lit up. Every screen displayed my face. Then a voice spoke from all the phones at once. My voice. "Found you." The warehouse lights went out. In the darkness, I heard footsteps approaching from every direction. I ran outside and drove away without looking back. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've changed cities, changed jobs, and changed phone numbers. None of it helped. The voicemails still arrive. Tonight, I received the final one. The timestamp says it was sent 40 years in the future. Future me sounded calm for the first time, almost peaceful. "I finally understand what it is," he said. "It was never copying us. It was growing us." Then he laughed softly. "Look behind you." The message ended. As I listened, a second notification appeared on my screen. A live video call from my own number. Against every instinct I answered. The camera connected immediately. I wasn't looking at another person. I was looking through the eyes of something standing inside my apartment. The camera slowly turned toward a dark corner of the room. There, smiling in the shadows, was another version of me, watching, waiting. And as I write this, my bedroom door has just begun to open by itself.